Family, imagine this. You're in the airport with your kids, minding your business, filming your own vlog for your YouTube channel. You didn't bother nobody. You didn't sneak your camera into a private room. You're in a public airport where cameras are literally everywhere. But here comes a stranger, not just upset, but determined to chase you down, call you disgusting, and try to sick security on you. And why? Because you're black, and they decided your joy was too loud for their comfort. Let's talk about it. Because what happened to Casey Sharp in Bangkok is a case study in everyday racism. The kind that doesn't always scream slurs, but whispers entitlement, policing, and harassment. Here's the setup. Casey's a black single mother of two. She recently moved from Florida to Thailand. She's in Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok, filming a vlog for her YouTube and TikTok, just minding her business, talking to her phone like millions of people do every single day in airports. And in the corner of the frame for a split second, a white British woman in pink. Now let's pause right here, because background strangers are unavoidable in public filming. You can't walk into an airport and expect to be invisible. Airports are crawling with cameras, security cameras, phones, vlogs, news crews. But instead of shrugging it off, this British woman decides to make it a scene. She storms over to Casey and demands that she delete the video immediately. "You haven't got our permission to film us," she snapped. Family, let me clap back right here. First of all, permission? In a public airport, surrounded by surveillance cameras filming from every corner? Ma'am, if you're scared of being on camera, the airport is not your safe space. There are literally government-grade HD lenses recording your every move. Casey filming herself for YouTube is the least of your problems. But here's where it gets ugly. Casey tries to brush it off. She doesn't want to escalate. She tells the woman calmly, "I'm not going to have this discussion with you. Lower your voice. I'm not deleting anything off my phone that I pay the bill for." And that should have been the end. But entitlement doesn't walk away easy. The woman storms to security, loudly describing Casey's outfit, pointing out her pink backpack, calling her disgusting. She even followed Casey through the airport like she was hunting her down. Family, that's harassment. That's not about privacy. That's about control. Because if it were really about not being in the background of a shot, she could have walked the other direction. Instead, she chased her, tried to involve security, and even escalated her language. That's when it shifts from complaint to obsession. Now let's pause and look at the psychology. What gives someone the audacity to decide another person's phone, another person's video, another person's platform must be shut down immediately? Or else? That's entitlement. That's someone walking through the world believing their discomfort is law. And when the person they're trying to control is black, it comes with an extra layer of venom. Because let's be real. Casey said it herself. As long as you're black, you're always going to have somebody in your business. That's the truth. A white vlogger filming in that airport wouldn't have triggered this kind of meltdown. But a black woman with her kids, confidently filming her life, suddenly it's an issue, suddenly it's delete that, suddenly it's I'll tell security. And family, we've seen this pattern over and over. White entitlement loves to insert itself in spaces where black people are just minding their own business. Whether it's BBQ Becky calling the cops on folks grilling in a park, Permit Patty harassing a little black girl selling water, or Central Park Karen weaponizing fake fear against a black bird watcher, the script is the same. See a black person doing something normal, escalate it into a crisis, and demand outside authority step in.
And we didn't get to eat yet because the food on the delivery was delayed. So we gotta find something to eat as well.
And we're in the background and you haven't got our permission to film us.
You're okay.
Can you delete it, please?
I'm not deleting anything out of my phone.
Then you haven't got our permission. So
You'll be okay.
No, we won't.
You'll be okay.
Excuse me, that's our personal information.
Anyways, YouTube. Yeah, we're about to check in our bags and we're gonna get out of here. But yeah, it's not a Thailander that's acting like that either. So I got my permission on my phone in a public space.
It's not public. You filmed us.
I didn't film you. I filmed me. You were just in the background.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, it's a public place.
You need to be aware who is in the background.
Anyways, I'm not gonna have this discussion. You can lower your voice.
If there was
you can lower your voice.
Here, they would have to ask your permission.
You can lower your voice talking to me in front of my children, because I'm not deleting anything out of my phone that I paid the bill for.
Filming us.
I'm not filming. Like I'm not filming them. I'm filming myself.
She's filming us.
We were in the background. But anywho, and the Russian, they haven't had They haven't had the Cincinnati Brawl rewind. It's a public place, and I'm filming content. But you don't like it, don't stand behind me. Simple. Stand somewhere else. Stand somewhere else. And I'm going to continue to film myself. Now I'm really going to film for my safety. Yeah, wow. As long as you're black, you're always going to have somebody in your business.
Would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with that? Would you be okay?
Why are you talking to me? They're already online. They're celebrities on TikTok. And you're about to be a celebrity.
They're not.
And you're about to be a celebrity on TikTok.
They're not. They really are.
And you're about to be a celebrity. The security guard laughed at them because I wasn't even minding the business. I was minding the business that paid me. So why are you talking to me?
What the British woman was doing, she wasn't just mad about being in the background. She was trying to turn Casey into a spectacle, trying to flip her into a problem for security. And the wildest part? Security wasn't buying it. 3 different guards shrugged her off because they know the law. It's legal to film in public. Period. Family, let me clap back again. This woman was in Thailand, a country that is not hers, where she's technically a guest. And yet she felt comfortable enough to harass a black woman, involve local security, and act like she was entitled to control public space. That's colonial arrogance if I've ever seen it. Meanwhile, Casey kept filming, not just for content, but for her safety. And that's the part that stings the most. Black folks don't just film for fun anymore. We film because evidence is our shield. Casey knew if things went left, if this woman convinced security or police to take her side, that footage would be the only thing standing between her and humiliation, or worse. So when people say, why do black folks always pull out their cameras? This is why. Because cameras have become our witnesses in a world that constantly misreads us. And family, the irony, the whole meltdown went viral. 10 million views later, the British woman ended up more visible than she ever would have been if she had just walked away. She didn't want to be filmed? Congratulations, sis. You're international now. Family, let's zoom out for a minute. Because what Casey went through in that Bangkok airport wasn't just some random clash between 2 travelers. It's part of a much bigger story, one black folks know too well. See, our very presence has been policed since the beginning, from slave passes in the 1800s to sundown towns where black folks risked their lives if caught outside after dark, to modern-day stop and frisk policies. The through line has always been, black bodies are suspect by default. And that suspicion doesn't clock out. It travels with us. It follows us overseas. You could be in Europe, Asia, Africa. It doesn't matter. If you're black, someone somewhere is going to feel like it's their job to monitor you. That's exactly what happened here. Casey was doing something millions of travelers do, vlogging her experience. White vloggers flood YouTube with day-in-my-life travel videos, walking through airports with cameras in their faces. Nobody bats an eye. Nobody tells them to delete anything. But when Casey does it, suddenly it's a crisis. Suddenly she's disgusting. Suddenly security has to be involved. And let's pause on that word, disgusting, because that's not about privacy. That's about dehumanization. That's about saying, you don't just annoy me, you offend my very sense of order. That's the language of disdain, not discomfort. And the fact that she shouted it while following Casey and describing her outfit to guards tells you everything you need to know. She wasn't trying to protect her privacy. She was trying to mark Casey as a problem. Family. This is the psychology of entitlement. When people like that see a black woman confidently occupying space, documenting her own life, their first instinct isn't, oh, she's just living. It's who gave her permission. That's the root. Black women are supposed to shrink, to stay quiet, to stay invisible. And when we don't, somebody steps up to enforce the old rules. And it's always the same script. They escalate a minor situation into a spectacle. They demand compliance, and when you don't fold, they run to authority. That's why she ran to 3 different security guards. She thought if she barked loud enough, someone in uniform would back her up. And the gag is, none of them did. They literally laughed her off, because even they knew filming in public is legal. Now let's clap back on the irony. This woman was furious about being in the background of a vlog, but airports are already surveillance central. Cameras are everywhere. Security is everywhere. Every move you make is recorded. But somehow, Casey's little phone was the real violation. That's not logic. That's projection. And speaking of projection, let's talk about the stalking energy. Because once she complained, she could have walked away. But no, she followed Casey through the airport. She described her backpack. She tried to trail her to multiple checkpoints. Family? That's not protecting privacy. That's harassment. That's obsession. That's making someone feel unsafe while claiming you're the victim. And doesn't that sound familiar? Because how many times have we seen this play out? People flip the script, play victim, and weaponize authority. BBQ Becky, Permit Patty, Central Park Karen, all the same performance. The only difference this time is the location. Same script, different airport. Now let's pause on Casey's response because this part matters. She told the woman calmly, "I'm not deleting anything. I pay the bill for this phone." And when she realized the situation was escalating, she said, "Now I really have to film for my safety." Family, that's survival. Because we know if the wrong authority had taken the wrong side, Casey's own footage could have been the only thing standing between her and disaster. That's the reality of being Black in public. We don't just film for content. We film for evidence. We film because our word alone doesn't carry weight in the eyes of systems that are quick to believe the other side. And here's where the cultural bite comes in. Because when Casey said, as long as you're Black, you're always going to have somebody in your business, she wasn't just talking about that airport. She was talking about life. Black women are constantly scrutinized for how we parent, how we talk, how we dress, how we work. Folks feel entitled to monitor us, correct us, and discipline us. That's not paranoia. That's lived experience. So when TikTok commenters said, "OMG, they're literally following you just to be in the camera," they weren't exaggerating. They recognized the absurdity, but they also recognized the pattern because we've all seen it before. Family, the wildest part. The British woman ended up going viral anyway. The very thing she wanted to avoid, being on camera, became her legacy. 10 million people saw her tantrum. 10 million people saw her entitlement. 10 million people saw her try to police a Black woman and fail. That's poetic justice. But let's not sugarcoat it. For Casey, this was stressful. This was scary. This was harassment in front of her children. And that's the part folks don't talk about enough. The way racism disrupts joy. She was supposed to be documenting her travel, making content, building memories. Instead, she was forced to defend her right to film in a public space. That's what racism does. It robs you of peace, even in ordinary moments. And family, let me say this. Casey kept her composure, but she also stood her ground. She didn't fold, she didn't delete, she didn't let that woman control the narrative, and that matters. Because every time we refuse to shrink, every time we refuse to let somebody else define the rules for us, we're breaking the cycle. Family, let's get to the real root of this. What happened to Casey Sharp in that airport is not just about one white British woman being uncomfortable. It's about the global policing of Black women's existence. Because here's the truth. No matter where we go, whether it's Florida, Bangkok, or London, Black women carry the same burden. Somebody always thinks they have the right to monitor, to challenge, to intrude, to demand explanations. It's not tied to one country. It's tied to a worldview where Black women's confidence is seen as aggression and our joy is seen as disruption. Think about it. Casey wasn't loud, she wasn't fighting, she wasn't doing anything but filming her vlog. And yet this woman decided she had the authority to demand Casey delete her footage. That's entitlement, pure and simple. That's the assumption that a Black woman's space, her work, her content can be controlled on command. And let's clap back on this idea of permission, because family, the gag is you don't need permission to exist in public. You don't need permission to film in public. Airports are literally the most filmed spaces on Earth. Security cameras catch every move, every blink. But the minute a Black woman picks up her phone, suddenly it's, you don't have our permission. Please, that's not about privacy. That's about power. And you know what's even more wild? The British woman brought her own child with her. Imagine teaching your kid that following strangers around the airport, harassing them, calling them disgusting, is an appropriate response. That's how entitlement gets passed down, as culture, as habit, as performance. Now let's talk about the word disgusting. Because that's not a casual insult. That's dehumanization. That's language that strips dignity. She wasn't just saying Casey annoyed her. She was saying Casey's presence itself offended her. That's a deeper cut. And it's the same cut Black women have faced forever. Too loud, Too visible, too confident, too much, always too something. And when we push back, suddenly we're the aggressors. But here's the flip side. Casey didn't fold. She didn't delete. She didn't let that woman rewrite her story. She said, now I really have to film for my safety. Family. That's the survival instinct of Black people in 2025. Cameras are our shield. Evidence is our protection because history has shown us what happens when it's our word against theirs. And let's not miss the irony. The woman didn't want to be filmed, but now she's viral. 10 million views later, she's famous for the very thing she fought against. That's karma with Wi-Fi. That's what happens when entitlement meets the internet. But I want to pivot here and talk about the psychological impact, because Casey laughed it off in the follow-up, but let's not forget, she had her kids with her. Imagine being a Black mother, traveling abroad, trying to set an example for your children, and being forced to defend yourself against harassment in real time. That's stress. That's trauma. And that's the hidden tax of racism, the constant disruption of peace. And family, let's be real. This wasn't about Casey specifically. This was about what she represented. A Black woman living freely, documenting her journey, unbothered, visible. That visibility was the trigger. Because society is still uncomfortable with Black women being authors of our own narratives. They want us boxed in, silenced, erased. And when we refuse, here comes somebody demanding deletion. But here's the empowerment piece. Casey stood firm. Security didn't buy the nonsense. And millions of people online rallied behind her. That's community. That's accountability. That's the power of telling our own stories. So what's the takeaway? First, don't let anyone gaslight you into believing your presence needs permission. You have the right to occupy space. You have the right to film your own life. Second, always know the law. In public spaces, you can record. Period. Folks love to bluff with fake legal jargon, hoping you'll fold. Don't. Knowledge is power. Third, document everything. Not because you owe anyone proof, but because evidence protects you when bias tries to rewrite the script. Fourth, recognize the pattern. This wasn't about Casey alone. It's the same pattern Black women face daily, at work, at school, in neighborhoods, worldwide. And naming it is the first step in breaking it. And finally, protect your joy, because that's what harassment really targets. Your joy, your confidence, your peace. Don't let them steal it. Don't let them erase it. Don't let them make you smaller. Family, Casey's story is proof of what we already know. Being Black in public means carrying extra weight. But it's also proof that when we stand firm, when we hold the camera, when we keep receipts, their entitlement doesn't win. Our truth does. So let me close with this. Black women are not disgusting. We are not a disruption. We are not trespassers in the global story. We are creators, documenters, storytellers. We deserve to move through the world without harassment, without demands, without someone chasing us down for existing. And the next time somebody tries it, remember Casey. Remember that cameras flip the script. Remember that exposure is power. And remember this, as long as we keep telling our stories, their entitlement will always lose to our truth.